Welcome to Comparing Notes.
I'm Allie from Finding Mr. Height.
And I'm Talia from Dating Intentionally. And we're teaming up to support you beyond the early stages of dating and through the different stages of a new relationship.
Yeah, we both have a ton of experience going on lots of dates that actually led to getting into long-term relationships. So we're super excited to share our wisdom with you to help you avoid some of the pitfalls and anxiety spirals along the way.
Yeah, in part one, we talked about what to expect in the first 3 months of a relationship, and we'll link that in the notes below. And this second episode in our 3-part series is going to cover the 6-month point in a relationship. We're getting into when to discuss timelines, what happens when you start to get really comfy with each other, and all the firsts that come with being in a relationship for 6 months.
Before we jump into our experiences with this, we did a few polls again because I think they're just so interesting. And we did a few more for the 6-month mark. The first one being, do you know if someone is marriage material 6 months in?
Yeah. And if you're listening, please comment your thoughts on this. I think this is fascinating. This is definitely a polarizing question. Some people are like, how would you know? And some were like, oh, I definitely know.
My results are similar to yours. Like, there were very few people who were on the fence.
Yes. And also, we want to say, you don't have to know if they're marriage material by 6 months. Everything we are sharing in this episode is like, it's like general guidelines, just kind of an idea of things. It is not like, if you're not doing this by 6 months, your relationship is bad or wrong or doomed. It's just kind of like what we experience, and I think what a general experience is, and you can kind of use that to gauge what you want to be happening in your relationship.
Yeah, and I think part of what the polls were meant to illustrate is that people have different opinions on these things, and it's like, that's kind of the point. Like, people were writing, at least to my polls, people were DMing me being like, well, how am I supposed to know? Or like to another one, well, it could be any of these. And it's like, yeah, that's the point.
Mm-hmm. So for my results, 35% said yes, you will know if someone is long-term commitment marriage material by 6 months. 42% said maybe. So I guess we had some people on the fence. And 16% said need more time. And I think the 42% people, it's like, well, it depends on what we've done by then. It depends on how close we've gone or like just what we've experienced together.
Yeah, I had actually 55% of people say yes.
Whoa.
But then 35% maybe, and then the rest, like, not sure, need more time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people DM'd me too saying, I might know that they're marriage material. That doesn't mean that I know I want to marry them. I think those are two different things.
Oh, okay. Can you say more?
I think there's a difference between knowing that somebody is marriage material for you in the sense that they meet a lot of your needs and they're what you've been looking for and all of that stuff. But you're not quite saying, I know I want to marry this person because you've only spent 6 months with them.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, you can know if they're marriage material, but not know if they're marriage material for you specifically.
Right. Like, there's a lot of stuff, as we're going to talk about, there's a lot of stuff you've yet to experience together.
It makes sense. Like, at 6 months of dating, you're investing that much time. They're probably a good person. They're probably someone you want to be investing that much time in generally. But then the specifics of if they're someone you want to build a life with, like, come later.
Yeah. Like, and we're going to talk about a lot of the things that you experience together around this 6-month mark as you lead toward a year. And I think so many of those, for me at least, inform if you want to spend your life with someone.
Speaking of what you've experienced, do you want to share a little bit about what you and Skyline were experiencing at the 6-month mark?
Yeah. So this is, I think, when I started to feel more comfortable that I could, for lack of a better word, unclench. And like, we talked about in the first episode, in part 1, we talked a lot about kind of that waiting for the other shoe to drop feeling of the first 3 months of a relationship, which is something that I experienced really deeply in my life, not just in this relationship.
Right.
Around the 6-month mark, probably more like 4.5, 5, is when I would go stretches of time and then realize I haven't had that thought in weeks.
That's so cool.
So cool.
Amazing. Okay. Did you tell Skyline that?
Yes and no. Like, I don't know that I had like a sat him down and be like,
just so like mentioning like, oh, this is great. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that, so 6 months is when we did our second relationship check-in. We did our first one on our 3-month anniversary. And then we did one at 6 months. We did like a 6-month anniversary, little mini vacation to the mountains. And I told him in that, like, that's when I was like, I really like how comfortable I feel in this relationship.
I love that. And that's so cool that you're doing, did you do like 9 months? Another check-in? Like, was it 3, 6, 9, or was it?
We forgot.
Okay. I mean, 9 months is a weird, Like, no one's really thinking about that.
No, I didn't really realize that 9 months had happened. And then I was like, oh, we meant to do this every 3 months, but then we did it on our anniversary.
Got it. So what else? Like, what else was going on at 6 months with you and Skyline other than having this wonderful check-in?
He met my mom, which was really exciting. She came to New York, and I live across the country from my family. Every single member of my family lives on the West Coast. And so it's sometimes in relationships in the past, people either meet my family really early or pretty late because of how far away they live. So like I've had boyfriends meet my family at like 6 weeks because they're here, and
Right.
otherwise it might be 8 months. But this happened to be around 6 months. She came in late September, so it was like 5.5 months. And she really solidified for me how well I thought he was going to gel in my family.
That's beautiful.
It was so cool to see. And like, she told me later, we went to dinner, the three of us. I went to the bathroom, and she apparently during that time thanked him for loving me.
That's so sweet.
My mom is a gem of a human. She is so sweet and so sentimental. And she told me that later, and I was like, that mom, that is equal parts embarrassing and amazing.
I think it's more amazing.
It was. So that was amazing. And the other milestone that we hit around 6 months is we started talking about trips.
Okay.
And like planning travel together. So we did that little mini vacation on our 6 month anniversary. We drove there though. But around 4.5, 5-ish months is when we planned our first trip into the future, which happened at 8 months. We went to Paris together, and then almost right after that, Mexico.
Very cool.
And yeah, and I think that like that travel's a huge thing for me. I love it. It's a huge part of my life. He did not travel before we met as much as I did.
Okay. And was that like a sticking point for you, or like, did you care?
I wanted somebody who wanted to travel with me. So I was more so curious about whether that was something he was open to. And it turned out that he really wanted to. He just like kind of hadn't gotten around to it, which is how I was before I started. And then I got the travel bug and never stopped.
Right. That's usually how it goes. Were you nervous going into that trip? Were you just like kind of, let's just see what happens? Because when you're traveling together, well, and listeners, like traveling with your person is such a huge step in a relationship. No matter when it happens, whether it's 3, 6 months, a year and on, you're going to learn so much from being together for a long period of time, being in transit, sharing a hotel room or whatever.
Yes. I was nervous mostly because, so our first trip was Paris, and I am well aware of how small hotel rooms in Paris are. Right. And our hotel room, like you were literally on the toilet next to the person in bed with a very small door in between you. Like there's no secrets in that room.
I think that's the best way to do it. You know what? If you're going for it, just go
dive right in.
Yeah.
Dive right in. And we experienced a lot on that trip, both like grand, romantic, like Eiffel Tower sparkling at night, looking into each other's eyes, being like, I want to be with you forever kind of vibes. And then also, yeah, it was really amazing. But like also some moments of very high stress where I kind of got to see how he was in a crisis. I got my arm stuck in a metro door.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What the heck? That's so scary.
It was terrifying. I was exiting the metro with him.
Was it like your sleeve?
No, my full arm clamped on my upper arm. He was in front of me. It was a really crowded metro. We were trying to get off at our stop. He was in front of me and like was holding my hand and was like kind of pulling me through the crowd, and we were navigating. And the door started to close. And in New York, when the doors close for the first time, if they hit something, they pop back open. That doesn't happen in Paris.
Oh my God, no. Well, that's a good tip because we're going in like a couple weeks.
Don't try to hold the doors. Like it's my fault, but like I was just so accustomed to New York where
it's okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So it clamped onto my arm, and in Paris, there's an inner door that's the actual train door, and that's the one that was clamped on my arm. And then there's an outer plexiglass also divider. And so Skyline ended up on the other side of that because obviously like my hand got stuck. I let go of his hand. He turns around. I'm behind a plexiglass wall in between. He can't get to me. And my arm is sticking out of the train and it starts to move.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And we're heading towards a tunnel with half of my arm sticking out of this train. People around me are like freaking out. People are trying to pull the doors open. He's like banging on the plexiglass thing like he can't get to me. Luckily, we were able to, not me, because I only had one arm free, but people on the train were able to pry the doors open so I could get my arm back right before we went through the tunnel.
That's so scary.
So scary. And then like I looped around
And you
got back.
You guys, yes.
Yeah. I was worried I was going to lose my phone because I was also holding my phone in that same hand that he'd been holding. So my phone was outside the train.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. And I'm sorry that happened to you. Holy crap. That's so scary. Subway related, metro related things are really like, I'm so scared of like being pushed or falling on the tracks. Like one of my worst fears. Anything like that is terrifying to me. And now do you guys have a protocol about leaving, exiting, and entering trains?
Yes.
Of course.
So I always go first now. Like he thought that he was being more helpful by leading me through the crowd, but now he's like, no, I need my eyes on you at all times.
Never again.
Never again.
I don't want any bad things to happen to anyone. Like, but crises do happen, and when you're with your person of all kinds, and I have a story as well. It's going to happen when you're with someone for a long time, and it does tell you a lot about your relationship when you are in a situation that's kind of hairy.
It really does. And I like made my way back around. He had gone over to the other side of the platform to meet me. Like as I was coming back, we'd been texting, and I like was half laughing, half crying.
Yeah.
Cause I was so in shock of like what the fuck had just happened. And he soothed me so much by just being there for those emotions and also kind of laughing with me, but also comforting me.
Yeah.
And it was just this moment where it was like, okay, we started calling each other trees on this trip, which means that one person has their feet like rooted in the ground, but like can kind of sway back and forth. And now we'll say like, I need a tree.
Oh, that's so
when
cute.
We need things.
I love that. That's really sweet. So, okay. I mean, I'm sure the rest of the trip was wonderful.
Yes, there were only a blip in an otherwise amazing trip, but it was really nice to like see how he navigated my stress. And like, also I think something that comes up when you travel with someone is the differences in how you each want to approach activities.
Yes.
And when you want to leave for stuff, how comfortable are you being late? So much.
Not comfortable. Not. Just
you're like zero.
Full freak out.
0%.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're if you're in a relationship and it's been at least 3 months, like definitely start thinking about planning a getaway. It doesn't have to be international. It doesn't have to be a week. It could be a couple of days, but I think it just will. It's so educational and fun, mostly fun. And you'll have great sex.
Yes, definitely. But I think it teaches you how you're able to compromise with your partner too, as you're navigating different preferences. Like I now like to get to the airport early because of a lot of the lounges that have opened in New York. But previously I was someone who, if I was sitting at the gate at all, I'm too early. Like I want to walk through security and right onto my
I had
plane.
a phase like that and it was not good for me.
I loved it. Like that was my jam. I've never missed a flight, knock on wood.
I think that aged me like 10 years. Just doing that.
Skyline is not that way though. Like even if there's not a lounge that we can be in, like he wants to be there extremely early.
Yeah.
And that is something that is easy for me to compromise on. It's like, all right, it's going to make you so stressed if we do it my way. I'm going to be a little annoyed if we do it your way. That's better.
But at least you're together, right?
Yes.
It's different when you're alone. Like you don't want to be sitting at the gate by yourself. I get it. But when you're with them, it's like, you're people watching. It's fun. Were there anything else you guys were like talking about at this point? Any big conversations happening?
This is when we first started talking about moving in together. It was like starting towards the end of the year, which was like 6, 7, 8 months. Around 8 months is when we had what is the timeline conversation, but it was around 6 months that we started referencing it.
Mm-hmm. What did that look like? Like, what do you mean referencing it? Like when we live together or like if we live together?
When we lived together, like it started to be more of an assumption of like, oh, this is where this is going. And we started to say that out loud. The other interesting dynamic for us is that I own my condo and he rents a studio. So like from a size perspective and also the fact that I own it, it was going to be him moving into my place. And so that was interesting because I remember one time he said we'd been talking about it and he would make references to Brooklyn because he currently lives in Manhattan. As we speak, he's moving in 2 days, by the way.
Yeah. When this comes out, he will be moved in.
He will be moved in. Yeah. But as we speak, he lives in Manhattan and I live in Brooklyn. And so we'd started to have conversations like when we were in Brooklyn, he would say things like, I really like Brooklyn. Like I could see myself living here. And I'd be like, oh, really? What about in this neighborhood?
What about in this condo?
Right. What about this street? What do we think about this street? And we started to have those kinds of conversations. But then at some point, he turned to me when we were having one of them and he was like, you need to ask me to move into your place, right?
What did you think about that?
Actually hadn't occurred to me.
It had not occurred to you. Okay. I think that's fair. Like, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
This is a new experience for you. You've never lived with someone in your condo before. So it's okay if you don't know. Also, what the other person expects, you don't know that until I say it out loud. So
1,000%. So I was like, oh, because in his mind, he was like, this is her place that she worked really hard to buy on her own and loves like living there and all this stuff. Like, I can't just invite myself to live there too.
That makes sense.
But I hadn't thought about it that way until he said that. And then I immediately was like, oh, do you want to move into my condo? You can. I want you to.
Oh, that's so cute. So did that happen? Like, when did that happen?
6.5, 7 months.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. It sounds early, but that literally happened like the same way for me. So if you're listening to this and you're like, it sounds so early, I just want to remember, like, you can talk about it, but doesn't mean you're doing it. You're doing it, like, at least how many months or years later? Like
almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year later. Okay.
So like, I think that is the point that maybe gets missed when you talk about milestones like that, is that we had that conversation at 6, 7, 8 months. I don't remember exactly when we first had it, but we weren't doing it until a year and a half. Like, we've actually, as of a couple of days ago, we've been together a year and a half.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, it's giving your relationship a direction. Like, this is where we want to go. And this is what we're comfortable talking about in terms of how long we've known each other for now. Like, you're not talking about getting married. You're talking about moving in.
Yes.
And that's a different conversation.
Also, I did really bad math. It's been a year and 4 months. I'm so sorry.
Okay. It's whatever. After a year, it's kind of like, whatever. I
just want to call that out.
We could call it a year and a half. Okay.
Yeah. And we had that conversation about not only we want to move in together, but what do we think the timeline looks like for that? And what does that mean for us? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's really important too, is like, I know this is true for you too, and we'll get into your experience in a second. But for me, I want to be married, and he knew that, and we discussed that. And I wanted to live with someone before I got married to them. And so did he. But I didn't want to do it without discussing, okay, we're doing this because we think we're going to get married.
Right. And so you had that discussion.
Yeah, but it was more like, we want to move in together. We're talking about probably doing it next fall. Like, when he's lived in his place, he wanted to live alone for a year. Yeah. So like, when he's lived there for a year, and when it gets a little closer and we're actually going to pull the trigger on it and do it, we have to have another conversation to be like, we are sure that is why we're doing this.
Got it. That makes sense. It's like, you don't have to have that conversation all in once.
No.
One sitting. No, and it shouldn't be that like that. That's way too much. It's like way too heavy. It's too big of a thing to wrap your head around, honestly.
Yeah. It was more like, this is where we want to be a year from now. Like, when we were talking about it, we're like 8, 10, 12 months from now, we want to be at a place where we're moving in together because we think we're eventually going to get married. We don't need to decide that right now. No,
but this is where we're going. This is a direction. And you feel it like, in the right relationship's going to bring you closer. It's going to be fun to talk about. This is huge. If it's fun to talk about, that's a really good sign. If it's not fun to talk about and it feels like a chore, if it feels strained, if you feel like there's a lot of tension, that is a red flag to not ignore.
Yeah. And I think similarly, we talked about travel already, but the other thing that started to come up around this time is handling holidays and family travel. For me and him, we started dating in April. Both of us already had family vacations planned pretty much around the time we met. I actually think his family vacation gets planned like a year in advance. So we were more so talking about next year, but it was early enough that we could, in theory, have spent the holidays together, and we decided not to.
That makes sense.
But again, like you said, if those conversations had been tension-filled or had felt awkward or weird, like, that would have been a red flag to me.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys implemented at this point?
Oh, so we started using a shared calendar, which was very fun. It was his idea, which when he proposed that, in my mind, I was like, I have found my person.
Yeah. I want to hear in the comments, what do you guys think of a shared calendar? I'm really curious to know your thoughts. Like, do you love it at this point? Is it too early? Does it feel too like enmeshed? I don't know.
I want to do this as one of our polls for the next one. Okay. I also want to know what people think about sharing location. We've been sharing location like since the jump, like practically since we became official.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Sharing location, I don't remember when Johnny and I started doing it, but he does it with all of his friends, which was a pandemic thing. And so it kind of like is just the culture of his friend group
Same.
that I've been adopted into. So I don't remember when it happened, but it happened at some point, probably at least 6 months in.
Yeah, I think it's the culture for my friend group, but also for Skylines. Like he has all of his friends' locations, so it just made sense. Like it wasn't even a
Yeah.
conversation. It was like, oh, you're a new person in my life. I will have your location.
Oh, all right.
Like,
Yeah, it was kind of like that for us too. Same with the shared calendar thing. And I'm happy to share my experience with the 6 month mark because the shared calendar thing did come up. Johnny mentioned having a shared calendar when we became official. He was like, I'm not ready to share my calendar with you yet. Like,
oh,
I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know that was like
okay
a thing.
then.
I'm like, oh, good to know.
Did he mean like his entire calendar, or do you guys have like a separate one that you specifically put things on?
We have a separate one. I don't have
Okay.
his entire calendar. He doesn't have mine. I don't want his entire calendar.
Yeah, same, and me
Yeah.
either.
We did start the shared calendar thing being just for dates, vacations, and
Mhm.
other important things that like, oh, I'm like, oh, my travel, his travel, just things we had to know about if we're planning stuff. So, and it's been great. We love having a shared calendar. It's been super fun. I love like I can throw something on his calendar, he can throw something on my calendar, and it's kind of like a surprise. So I was like, oh, this week you have this thing planned? Like I didn't know. You didn't say anything. It's just there.
It's one of my favorite things is to find things on the calendar. Like Skyline often will put like a silly thing on the calendar. Like
Yeah.
one time he put like a Allie to show Skyline her boobs.
That's-
So
I'm
like I'll
stealing
find
that.
little things like that, and they're just fun.
That's so cute. Okay, what else happened? So when Johnny and I were at 6 months, I remember at this point, I remember we talked about last time, I was like very routine averse of like, I didn't want to watch TV together. I didn't want to be that couple who like didn't go out and just sit on the
Yeah.
couch. At this point, I remember we were finally watching TV together and I was okay with it because he proved to me that he was willing to do fun stuff outside of our apartments as well. And I felt a little more comfortable. And now look, at this point in our marriage, like a year married and 3+ years together, we watch TV pretty much every night, but we also do other things.
Which that I
So,
think is the important piece is that you were able to like maintain that. I'm
yes,
curious though, did you actively tell him like, okay, now I'm ready for us to watch TV
yes, I
together
did
as dates?
actively tell him. I did. It was like, okay, I think I'm ready to like dive into. The first show we watched together was The West Wing. So it took us like
Oh, that's a
a
long one.
year to finish The West Wing at least. And we also started watching, this is later, we started watching Star Trek. I think after we moved in together, that was like, okay, now
Yeah.
Talia, you have to watch Star Trek. I was like, okay, this is the price. But no, we started watching West Wing. We were watching other series together, but that was the one that was like, it's like not on, but he wanted to show it to me. So that was really fun. We had our first trip together like 4 to 5 months in. So we went to Italy. And similarly, like we had just a really amazing romantic time in Italy. And this came about because I was already flying overseas to visit family and I was planning on tacking on a Europe leg by myself. We tried to make it so that he would actually come to see my family and then go to Europe with me, but like that wasn't working because of other stuff with his travel. But we ended up meeting in Italy. So we didn't fly together. We
You
did
flew
fly
back together though,
we
then,
flew back
right?
together. And I learned on that flight back together that Johnny fully expects me to watch movies with him the entire time. He does that thing where you
Oh,
start the movie at the same time. Like he'll like hover his finger over both of our screens and then hit play at the same time. So we're like synced. And I am more of a like, I want to work on the plane. I want to play on Instagram. I want to like read. I want to like just zone out. No, we have to watch movies the entire time. I'm not complaining. Like I fell asleep. It's fine.
that's sweet though that he wants to
It's-
share an experience with you on the plane.
Yes, he's a big quality time guy. And it's not every flight, but like on our big flights, like that's just the expectation. So that was fun. And I can't say we didn't have any major things happen on our trip, but I will say like during that trip, which I think was just about 5 months in, he had later told me that's when he knew he wanted to marry me.
Oh, because of that trip.
No, on the trip, he was like, we're standing outside the Duomo in Florence, and I just looked at you. We were about to climb up, and I'm like, yep, I'm good. Like,
Oh. When did he tell you that? Like, when did he tell you that he had that moment?
probably when we were doing wedding planning.
Oh, okay.
Like when we were talking to our officiant and like, you know, just kind of planning our ceremony and doing all that stuff. I think that's when that came out. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Do you have a similar, like, one singular moment where you thought that in reverse?
Yes, absolutely. So just after our trip in November, so this was like 6 or 7 months. No, it was 5 or 6 months in. We went hiking And I wanted to take Johnny to my favorite spot just outside of Seattle. It's like this, it's called Gold Pond Lake, and it's not really a hike. It's a walk around a pond. Coconut, my dog, who is not a hiking dog, can do it. So we drove up, and I didn't realize that it would be snowing in the mountains in Seattle in November for some reason.
Oh.
And the path was to the hike was covered in snow. And I'm like, I'm from New Jersey. I lived in Colorado for a year. I got this. I'm all cocky. I'm like, I have 4-wheel drive. I'm fine. Like, I've driven in the snow before. Of course, we got stuck, and we were not able to get out very quickly and easily. And I was getting really stressed and frustrated because I'm like, oh my God, it's like the sun's going down. My dog's in the car. Like, I'm scared, I'm just freaking out. And Johnny, that was the first time he saw me have like a full, just kind of freak out. Like, I was pissed. I was stressed. I was not being nice. And I am absolutely working on that. And, but like in that moment, that was like my subway arm crisis kind of.
Yep.
But he was super calm. He wasn't getting mad at me for being in a freak out mode, which is what I've experienced with men and also my dad and like just people. So I was scared he was going to come down on me and be like mad at me for freaking out so much. But instead he was just calm. We worked on it together. We worked through the problem. We got help from other people who were also stuck, and we got out. And like, that's what I knew. I'm like, this is the kind of person I want to be around when shit hits the fan.
He was your tree.
Yeah, he's my tree. Exactly. It was, now we laugh about it, we have since gone on that hike when it wasn't snowing, but that was the moment for me. It was like, yeah, like this is the person I want to be with.
Was that around that same time?
Yeah, it was like right after our Italy trip for sure. And yeah, I mean, at this point, Johnny did formally ask me to move in with him. So he did the formal ask, like, will you move in with me? And for listeners, he did not mean that week, at that point. We had kind of a certain point when this would happen, when our leases were up kind of at the same time, and he was planning on switching jobs and moving back to California. And he was kind of like, would you move back to California with me? And I'm an entrepreneur. I can work anywhere. And I'm like, I don't have any ties to Seattle. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I would go there. Also, at the time, my parents lived there half the year. My brother was there. Of course, they have moved. But, they moved like the second I moved to California. It was so annoying.
They were like, oh no, get out.
Yeah, she's here. No. But that was like kind of we knew it wasn't going to happen at that point. But yeah, he did ask. And I found that really nice. I didn't need that. I wasn't really expecting that necessarily, but it was really nice.
What were you expecting if not that? Like, how did you picture that?
More of like what you were kind of going for. Like, yeah, we're moving together. Like, we've been talking about it, so we're going to do it kind of conversation, not like one person has to ask the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because for us, we don't own our places. We were renting, so we would rent a place together. So it wasn't like, will you move in with me? It's more like, even that's what he said. It was more like, will we find an apartment together and move in together?
Right. Yeah. Like, when our leases are up, let's do this together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I imagine that when you were talking about kind of that safety that he gives you in that, like, I would assume that contributed to that, of you feeling like so safe and solid.
Yeah. I don't know. I knew at that point that's what I wanted with him. I knew at that point I wanted to be with him and that he was probably the one. Like, I was pretty confident about that. But of course, when you get to that point of knowing someone is the one, this is like matchmaker Maria advice. It's like, you validate. You don't just go for it. And after you have come to this realization, the rest of the time is spent validating that. And you also you might discover that you were wrong and actually know, like, throughout, if you have more experiences, that it's not the right person. So I wasn't like, I'm set, all done, don't need to like think about this relationship anymore. I can just coast until we get the ring. Like, no, I was still, making sure I was making the right choice.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about in terms of knowing somebody's marriage material, but not yet being sure that you want to marry them. You're still validating.
Yes, exactly. Other things that happened this time, I mean, we met each other's families at 6 months. So I will go through this quickly, but I ended up meeting his family without him.
I remember when that happened, like following along in your Instagram stories, being like, Johnny is not going to make it. I'm here by myself. Like, I think you asked a poll even, like, should I
was
stay?
Like, should I go? Basically what happened was his family lives in LA area, and I was going to drive from Seattle to LA with all of the presents, with the dog, and I was going to I had like a whole California road trip planned and he was going to fly. But then there was like this massive snowstorm, ice storm in 2022, if you guys remember that. We like knocked out the whole country's flights over Christmas. He wasn't able to leave Seattle. And I was like 3 hours away from his parents' house by car. And I'm like, okay. It was just like at that point, he had tried to move flights. He tried, but it's like, no, okay, I guess I'm doing this alone. And I, showed up. I had met his sister before, but like, it was just such a crazy, weird experience. I slept over.
How did it go? What was the vibe?
It went as well as it could go. Like, obviously, I felt really awkward because also I'm Jewish and I don't celebrate Christmas. So I don't even really know the vibe of Christmas. Like, I have very little experience with that. So, like, just kind of going along with it. I don't really know what people do. They're not religious, but it's like, you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah. So we did all the presents. I collected all the presents for Johnny and like put them in my car. We played Cards Against Humanity, which is a hilarious game to play with someone's parents you are meeting for the first time without them.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I think I made quite the impression.
It sounds, I'm assuming Johnny gets his sense of humor from somewhere because I know he has like a wicked sense of humor, but it sounds like they also do if they even wanted to play Cards Against
Humanity. They're fun. His family is super warm and nice and they're welcoming and they were great sports. Like we were all just kind of laughing at the situation. And then Johnny eventually made it out of Seattle and he met my family a few days after for our Hanukkah celebration. So that was like my mom, stepdad, brother, all the dogs. Yeah.
Has y'all celebrating sort of like two different holidays around that time made it a little easier to talk through holiday planning?
In a way, because that was like a one-off for my family. My family doesn't really care about Hanukkah that much. It just happened that the timing sometimes lines up with what we do. And oh, right, we were in Italy over Thanksgiving, so we skipped Thanksgiving, which is the one my family does care about for whatever reason. I don't really know why. My mom just loves it. And, so we skipped Thanksgiving, so that's why we did the Hanukkah one. And so that was his first time meeting my family. And like, we're very casual about all the holidays. So it was pretty chill.
That's nice that you don't have that stress of like one person's family is going to be mad or like, how are we going to navigate this?
No. So from now on, it's more just like we do Thanksgiving with my family and Christmas with his family. And it's pretty easy, except for that his birthday is on Thanksgiving. So sometimes it's a little like he doesn't want to, and which is valid. Like sometimes you don't want to. And this year we got out of it. So.
Yeah, I think it's totally valid to not always want to spend your birthday with your in-laws.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that.
The other thing I wanted to share about this point was we had one of our first kind of like bigger conflicts where I really brought up something that I was really questioning about the relationship. And I think we're getting into this, but I think having conflict at this point is likely going to happen. Don't freak out if you're not having any conflict, but like don't avoid it if it's seems to be coming up. This was around his birthday. So it was like around 6 months in. He kept saying this one thing over and over about that kind of like pointed to his worldview that really rubbed me the wrong way. And it was like a sentiment. He just like this, like he just kind of like would say it. And I confronted him about it. Like, this is not something I can respect. I was like, I don't respect this worldview. And I am struggling with this because it makes me not respect you as much. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah. And like that was a really scary conversation for me because this was a make or break conversation for me. Like I was ready to walk away based on how this conversation went because
if he had mattered. Like dug in on it.
Yeah. It was something along the lines of like people suck, right? Like just something, and that's just not how I view the world. And I don't necessarily we don't need to agree on that. But like I wanted to tell him like this is really hard for me to hear all the time. And he fortunately listened, didn't get defensive, and explained his worldview on a deeper level to me that helped me understand really where he was coming from and what he meant behind those words, which was very different than how it sounded on the surface.
How you were hearing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually brought us closer, made us understand each other more, and he has since stopped saying it. So that's nice.
Also helpful.
That's not what I was asking for. I'm like, I just want to get you, man. Like,
yeah.
But it was definitely a make or break moment.
I think that's so important to recognize that. Like you said, I think it can be really easy to try to just like, well, I can accept that. I can accept this. Like, that's fine. That's fine. And then all of a sudden you realize that there are all of these different things that you've just been like telling yourself are okay that actually really bother you.
I had learned from past relationships and past experiences that it's better to just bring these things up, but in a respectful way. And just also coming from a place of curiosity is going to yield such better results than being like, can you just stop fucking saying that? Like, you know?
Yeah, coming from a place of like, I'm trying to understand like where
Yeah.
you're coming from.
I wasn't trying to change him. I just really was like, I don't get this. I don't agree with this. What's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really valid. Was there anything on his end that like you brought that up and like he was more or you were more comfortable doing kind of like the TV nights in? Was there anything on his end that he was like, this is really important to me?
People always ask me that, and the answer is just no. Johnny does care about things, but he cares about fewer things. I don't know how to
Mm,
explain it. Like, he's just way more easygoing. And I'm not going to say, like, I think there was a fear of, like, oh my God, is he too passive? Is he not speaking up? Is he
yeah.
shoving things down? But the truth is, after 3 years together, he's spoken up about plenty. It's just less than I
Mm.
do.
So learning that about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's just stuff just rolled off his back more. And, like, he's like, whatever. It can be a little like, okay, you just genuinely do not care about this thing. Okay. Like,
Well, that also probably means when there is something that he does care about, like I
yeah.
know you've mentioned before that he cares a lot about quality time
Yeah.
and like wanted to start seeing you more and wanted to start doing like certain more things together, that when he does care about something, it's like, okay, I probably need to prioritize this because
Oh,
he's
yeah,
focused
for
on what he
sure.
cares about.
And like, I'm always receptive when he brings things up. It's just less than I do. So I don't think that's a red flag necessarily. People have different levels of tolerance and different sensitivities. And, I think he's more of a pick your battles guy. We've gone through a lot. We still have more to get through, Allie. I'm really excited to get into some kind of more tips for listeners, who are getting to this point or like close to this point, or maybe you're a little past it. We have a couple tips for you. The first thing we want to talk about, because we got asked about this a lot, is future
Mhm.
planning and alignment. Because at this point, you're 6 months in, you are a couple, like you are in a
Yep.
relationship. People know about you. You've probably hard or soft launched somewhere
At some point with
at some
someone.
point.
I think this is where things start to go from theoretical conversations to you and me conversations. Like we talked in part one about aligning on, let's say I want to have kids eventually, or I want to get married eventually, or, I want to live here. Those types of more theoretical things that are more about you as an individual. I think this is when it starts to shift to, no, we are talking about you and me now.
Yeah, it's definitely harder. I think though, when you're first getting into these conversations, I think the best move is to keep it light and fun. Keep
Yeah.
it as hypothetical and like abstract as possible, because you want to ease into it. You're not going to like just start with, so how many kids do you want and by when? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think having conversations like, if you think about, so something to use a personal example, something that was really important to me is somebody who could see themselves living in New York forever, in New York City
that's a
specifically,
good one. Yeah.
forever. It's not a deal breaker for me necessarily because I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind, but maybe sort of said the other way. It would have been a deal breaker if somebody said to me, I want to leave pretty soon. Like, I know I don't want to be here long term.
Yeah. Okay. Fair
I want the
enough.
option. But I started it with a more theoretical, like, so like, could you see yourself living in New York long term? Or like, could you see us living in
Mm.
New York forever? Could you see that
Yeah.
happening?
Could you
And
see is a great, yeah. What do you envision? Like,
yeah,
what do you see for yourself? Yeah.
it makes it more, like you said, fun and light. Like, let's say I had said that to Skyline and he'd been like, oh, hell no. Then I would probably be like, oh,
Yeah.
probably not my person.
Yeah. I don't know if people are going to judge me for this, but another way to get into these conversations is by talking about other people.
Yep.
So, like, if other people are moving in together, breaking up, or having kids, or getting married, or like, it's just like, oh, like, did you see this? And then you can kind of get into the conversation that way.
Yeah. Or if they're structuring something differently, like if they're moving in together after they got engaged, for example, like let's say there was a couple that you knew who got engaged and they hadn't lived together and they didn't live together at the time. Like that could be an intro for you to talk to somebody about your timeline if you want to do the opposite thing.
Yes. And I think
Or
this
if
is
you
the
don't.
easiest one. I think this is like
So
just
easy.
like when you're scrolling on Instagram, you're going to see an update from someone within like 3 scrolls. So,
Yeah.
like, that's just like, oh, do you see this? Kind of thing. It's such an easy way to get into it. I know it's not groundbreaking if we're just being real.
I actually think the point is that it's not groundbreaking because
Right.
when you're thinking about all of these topics, they're obviously really big topics. And a lot of these topics can and will be deal breakers for a lot of people, depending on how you each see it. So it can be really daunting. But I actually think it's like heartening that it's
Yeah.
not groundbreaking advice, that it's actually a lot simpler than we make it out to be in our
Right.
head.
Right. We're like, how do I say it? How do I bring it up? When do I bring it up? And the truth is you bring it up when you want to, when you feel like it, unless they're in the middle of a task or work or like they're
Sure.
sleeping, maybe not the best time.
Yeah, I'd be like, psst, wake up. We got to talk about engagement.
I think it's like use your common sense on that. When you're just hanging out and you're going on dates, you're having dinner together. Like at this point, you're still hanging out pretty frequently. You have many opportunities to get into these conversations. You don't just have to talk about work and like what's going on in your life. You can talk about what you each want for yourselves. It's pretty normal.
A lot of times too, a lot of these things come up in everyday life, like you said, when you're scrolling, et cetera. But some stuff isn't going to happen that way, but could still come up in your normal life. So I'm thinking about, I talk about finances.
Yeah.
Like you could see a news article about a stock market crash or somebody who made like a crazy amount of money on Bitcoin or like whatever random thing, and use that as an intro point into having a conversation about like, oh, like, do you invest in stuff? Like I started doing stocks a few years ago. Like, do you do that?
Yeah. Or like you can even make up, I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to this thing. I heard this thing. I saw this thing. You can like literally make it up. It's okay.
That's advice that I've given about relationship check-ins on how to intro the conversation about relationship check-ins, especially because as I'm giving that advice, I'm talking on a podcast. So I'm like, people, you're not even lying. You literally heard a podcast where somebody mentioned relationship check-ins.
Exactly. So what happens if you don't agree on something? I think that's the scary part. It's like, what if you bring it up? What if you bring up leaving New York or something and you're like, oh, shoot, we don't agree?
I think that's where it is so important when you're dating and when you're going into these situations to get really clear on what your deal breakers are, or like what your core needs are is another way of looking at it. Because I know I have been in situations where I have been tempted to abandon something that truly is a deal breaker for me. Like there was a relationship where I was in where I was way closer than I like to admit to moving to the suburbs and like quitting my job and being a like stay-at-home person.
Wow.
I say person because I don't know if we would have had kids, but which is something a lot of people want to do and is a totally valid choice, but is not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I was so close to doing it because I wasn't clear enough on what my deal breakers were and like confident enough in myself to stay true to them.
Yeah, it does take a lot, especially at this point when you're in love. Like you're probably maybe in love. We'll talk about that, and you're just more integrated in each other's lives. It can be hard to actually like, I need to pull out of this. Like this is not actually going in the direction that I want. And we're both encouraging you to make that hard choice rather than force it, ignore it, sweep it under the rug. Like your future self will thank you if it's heading in a direction that you don't want. And I thought that was really hard for you to get out of that.
Completely. Luckily, he turned out to be a shitty person as well. So he
great.
made the decision for me. But if he'd been a good person, who knows what the fuck I'd be right now.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think for me, if you don't agree on something, I don't think you have to like break up right away. I think it's worth exploring things, talking it out on a deeper level. But like, you also have to remember that you're adults and you're allowed to make a decision to leave a relationship if it's not going in the direction you want it to go in. Like it's hard, but you both will be better off for that choice.
Completely. And I think although you don't have to do it right away and it's not like, oh my God, we had this conversation, so we must break up tonight. The longer you push off something that you know is a deal breaker for you or that you know is not the direction you want your life to go in, the longer you're putting your life in the direction that you want it to go in.
That's so true. You don't want to do it to yourself.
No.
You deserve better.
And you truly do. And you don't want to look back and like kick your past self because they didn't like set your life on the path that you wanted sooner.
I'm trying to think if there was like a moment like that with Johnny and I, but I can't think of anything because we were pretty much aligned. The only thing was like, we both didn't know if we wanted kids. I remember when we met, he was like, I want them. But I remember as we got to know each other more, we were more just like, I could see it either way. Now we're fully like want kids, but it was a journey to get there. And we did not know, I think, for the majority of our relationship so far. It could have been a deal breaker, I guess, if one of us was extremely like, I want kids in the next 18 months, like we need to do it. Another one was like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you think about that when you were unsure, but he was saying he wanted to?
I was feeling like more open because unsure is like, I felt like I could go either way. And I think I am the kind of person where it's like, it depends on my partner.
Yeah.
And Johnny just happens to be the kind of person I am very excited to have kids with because he's amazing. And like, he's going to be an amazing dad if we get to have them. So, but also there would have been a version of our lives if he was like kind of different. If he also was an entrepreneur and we could live anywhere, we wanted to be like floating around, maybe that wouldn't have been the outcome. Like I
Yeah.
really could. I am very adaptable. I'm just very, very, that's why I've moved around a lot. Like I always knew I would attach myself to the person I was dating in terms of where we lived. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just literally go anywhere.
Well, I think that comes back to you knowing yourself really well
Yeah.
and knowing that you really did feel that way. But like you said, I think that conversation, if I had had that conversation and if Skyline had said what Johnny said of like, I want them, that would have been much harder for me.
Yeah. I don't remember him being like, I need them.
Ah.
Yeah. It was more just like, that could be fun. Like,
I think
sounds like a good time.
I do think a lot of men haven't spent as much time
Yeah.
thinking about it as a lot of women have. So I think that's a fairly common initial stance.
Yeah, exactly. We had a poll for this, which I found really interesting. It was, when should you have a full disclosure conversation about finances, including income, debt, maybe investments? And for my poll, which by the way had 2,400 responses for all these polls, 23% said early, before 6 months, 44% said around 6 months, 24% around 1 year, and 9% said when married, engaged, or living together.
Mine, I'm at like 2,500 votes. Mine is slightly more skewed towards married, which very much surprises me. So I had 18% before 6 months, 38% around 6 months. Like that one's kind of similar. 24% on the nose around 1 year, but then 20% when married, engaged, or living together.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I'm going to say right now, guys, do not wait to have a financial discussion until you are engaged or married. I could see moving in together as being the point. Okay, fine. But do it before you move in together, please.
I actually feel like this conversation is part of the decision to move in together.
100%.
I cannot imagine not having had that conversation prior to it. I guess there's a little bit of wiggle room on what people think about full disclosure.
Oh, yes. There is a difference between, the prenup process that I went through where you're literally looking at every single account you have between the two of you and listing it on a contract and just talking about what you have.
Yeah. I really do think that around 6 months, it sounds like our listeners agree that is around when I would expect to be talking about my salary or income, if you're not salaried, like income and where you see yourself and sort of just that general picture along with how you think about money.
I agree. However, Johnny revealed his salary to me on our third date, which was interesting, unprompted in a way. And it makes him sound really like cocky, I guess. But like, he works for the government. Okay, it's fine. He works at NASA, which is cool. But like, research is going bye-bye right now, which sucks. I remember just on our third date being like, what does your career trajectory look like? Because I was just curious as someone who works in the government, like, what does that look like? And he just revealed pretty much everything at that point. So 6 months in, we were already really comfortable talking about money and how much we both make. Like, I'm a business owner. It's always been really fun for me to talk about the finances that go into being an entrepreneur, as you know now as well. So it's an interesting topic that people I've dated really enjoy engaging in that I'm fine revealing. So we talked a lot about it early.
Yeah, I think Skyline and I had that conversation probably around 4 or 5 months. Both of us now have variable incomes because although he's in corporate, he's in sales. So a very significant portion of his income is commission. And so that fluctuates all the time. So I was talking to him a lot about my transition from a very fixed number for the last 15 years to like, I don't know where my next income is coming from initially when I first started.
Right. I think by 6 months, you should have a general picture of like what kind of income they're making. And also you share that information and like maybe generally if they care about retirement, if they care about debt, do they, and the keyword here is care about, right? Like, what do they value with money and how are they operating? You don't need to know every single number.
Yeah, I think the way that somebody values money is a really important thing to talk about in this stage, and where they like to spend, or maybe they don't really like to spend, and where they like to save, like where are they more frugal versus where are they splurging, like in what categories, and do you align or not?
Why do you think it's important to talk about this at 6 months?
Because I think that that's when you're starting to talk about and think about your lives merging. Like we talked about the other topics that come up, moving in together, engagement, those kinds of things, having kids. And in those conversations, it's just impossible to get away from money in the way that any of those things is going to function. And I don't think that the number that somebody makes is enough information for you to know if you align.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I could go on and on. but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's important. It gives a lot of context to what your lives would look like if you decide to move in together or get married. Yeah.
Yeah. Like as an example, Skyline and I right now I'm kind of working my way back up, but originally we made pretty much the same amount of money. But I spend a much higher, maybe not much, but a higher percentage of my income on my housing than he does.
Right.
Because it's something that I prioritize more than he does. And so we talked a lot about that as he was like looking to move in. I was like, is that something that you're comfortable shifting to, or do we need to talk about a different split? And ultimately he decided yes, like he does want to do that.
Yeah.
But it was something that we didn't share the same view on it initially.
Right. Yeah, you don't want any surprises, I think. Like that's another reason to talk about it this early. So we have some other tips we want to get into and other parts of hitting this point in a relationship that I think are really important to pay attention to. And you mentioned this at the top of our conversation, but like unclenching, getting comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
So, the honeymoon phase might start cooling off around this time. If it doesn't, great. Like again, none of this is scientific.
Of course.
It might happen. It might cool off a little bit. You're going to be seeing each other's more quirky sides. Probably you're going to be seeing each other's habits a little bit more. Like there are definitely some habits I noticed with Johnny's. I was like, huh, okay, that's interesting, but like not enough for me to be like, no.
Or it sounds like not even enough for you to like say something. Like it was enough for you to say something about that other thing.
I think this isn't what I do, but like this isn't different isn't bad.
What did that sort of transition into comfort look like for you in this time? I know you mentioned that you were, what you looked like on dates shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I think for us, we spent a lot of time doing more home dates. I remember that was fun, like playing games and cooking together. We just did it. We were playing with my dog a lot. We played chess a lot, because he was teaching me how to play chess, which is super fun. A lot of our dates at that point was like us just like having a drink, playing chess on his phone, and like him just completely beating me. Like I think I won 3 times. Yeah. We explored Seattle together a lot, which is so fun. Like it's like continuing the thread of that early dating phase. And in some ways more fun because you're not trying to impress each other as much in a way. Like you're just hanging out with someone you are really intimate with and close to.
I think that's the best part is that you like get to now do all of this cool stuff with somebody that you already know you enjoy spending time with.
And what about you guys?
So this is around a couple of different things. So in terms of what dating looked like, this is around when we started doing our surprise dates.
What is a surprise date?
We switch off every other month, surprising the person with the date. So we do date nights all the time, but we specifically have one date a month where one person fully plans it, fully pays for it, and it is a complete surprise until the night of. There's a few pieces of information necessary, like attire and timing and stuff like that. But as little information as possible to the other person, full surprise, and we switch off every other month. And it's so fun.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad you guys started that tradition. It's so cool.
It's really, really cool. And it started because when I quit my corporate job, he was like, oh, we're going to celebrate. What do you want to do to celebrate? And what I wanted to do was have him surprise me on a date. And he crushed it. And we had so much fun that we were like, we should do this more. Like this should be a thing that we do. And now it is. We've been doing them almost a year now.
That's incredible. What's like been one of your standout surprise dates that he planned for you?
The one that we just did last week by far is the best one yet. We went to Gramercy Tavern, which is this like really, really nice restaurant in New York. And I personally love burgers and they have a really amazing one. And so we did that and we split the burger. But then after that, he took me to Book of Mormon.
It's so fun. I've seen that 3 times.
I've never seen it. And I told him that I think 6 months ago and forgot about it. And that's the beauty of surprise date is that each of us are keeping like a log of things that the other person mentions that we're like, oh, that would be a good one. Oh, that would be a good one.
I love it. What did you think?
Oh, so fucking funny.
So
I
funny.
loved it. And like the best part was that I was so blown away because it was something I'd mentioned to him so long ago and had completely forgotten about, and he remembered.
I love that. Also, Gramercy Tavern. Oh my god, I went there once. I still dream about it.
It was
Amazing.
so good.
Yeah.
It was so good.
That's
but
so
the
nice.
but like the cool thing about surprise date, like another amazing one he did was a picnic in the park, and like we did the rowboats in Central Park, and that one was much more low key, obviously. So the whole point is that it's getting us doing fun and different things and keeping things fun and interesting. And that's been really, really cool to like keep us out of a rut.
And like, look, if you're listening to this, like once a month, that's a lot. You could do once a quarter.
Totally.
Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can be every other month, right? Like you can do your own cadence. I think once a month is great.
We talk about that too. We're like, does this still feel good? Like we're still into this. Everybody likes it. Great.
Yes. And that's really important to do. Like you keep checking in with them about other things. Like how is this going for you? You don't have to do formal check-ins like Allie and I both do in our relationships. You could just be like, hey, like, is this still working for you? Like, do you still want to see each other this amount of times per week? Do you still want to have these kinds of dates? Like, is there anything you want to change up? You're allowed to have those kinds of conversations because you don't have to just like be stuck in whatever you're doing forever. You get to mold your relationship in whatever way you want. And we had another poll here. How often do you want to be seeing your partner at the 6-month mark? What were yours?
So far and away, my most popular was 2 to 3 times a week. Once a week was only at 3%.
Mine
so
was
even,
6.
Yeah, even lower than yours. And then 60% of people, similar to you, 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then I had 30% of people at 4 to 5 and only 7% at every day.
Mine were pretty much identical. Yeah. I would say with Johnny and I, we were seeing each other, I would say 3 times a week, including like weekend sleepover. So I guess you can say 4 days a week with a sleepover because it's like kind of 2. But yeah, like Friday, Saturday, whatever. But, there was a point where he wanted more sleepovers during the week. So like during the week, it was usually we'd meet up for a walk or a dinner or like hang out one of our places, whatever. And then we would split up. But he was like, I actually want you to sleep over. So I ended up sleeping over. He had to, his work schedule was like made it so that it was just easier for me to stay to his place. So I would say his place more often during the week. But that was like hard for me because I love my morning routine. I am such a like morning person. So that was definitely hard for me, but I did it because it's like he asked and it's like I could do that.
So that was something that was your preference, was to kind of like meet up, but then go your separate ways during the week?
I just preferred to have my morning routine in my apartment.
I think that's totally valid.
And even now, like, living together, I get up before him and, he doesn't love that, but like, it's like, I need to do it for me. So it is what it is.
That's something that I need to do a better job of, is like Skyline is more of a night owl than I am. And like, I need to be in bed earlier, and this is fully on me. It is, I am an adult. It is my own fault, but I will stay up with him.
Oh, really? No. Johnny puts me to bed, tucks me in, gets me my Kindle, my water, my Nutrafol, and then just tucks me to bed. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think the last big section that we want to talk about are the firsts that might be happening in this time. Like we talked about some of those things, trips, holidays, like meeting the family. Something that you brought up, Talia, that happened to you around this time too, that I think is a big first for a lot of people, is your first conflict. What did you experience in that first conflict? How did it go?
Well, that was like what I mentioned earlier was definitely a first, like kind of a bigger, heavier conversation that I was like definitely scared going into, like make or break. Like, I don't know. But before that, we definitely had like little conflicts. And I would say Johnny is really good at de-escalating and diffusing heated energy. And I'm conflict avoidant. So I would say we've never had a fight. Like when you envision a couple fighting in terms of like yelling or like kind of being really very emotionally charged, that's not what we do. Ours is more, has always been sitting on the couch, holding hands likely, or like touching, like maybe his hands on my leg or my hands on his leg. And we're like talking calmly. Yeah. And then there will be times where I feel very shut down and I have to leave. And he does not like that at all. He gets really stressed out, but I'm just like, I literally can't say anything right now. I need to process and I'll come back in 5 minutes. And
is that something he's been able to accept?
Yeah, he doesn't like it, but it's like, we've done that enough where it's like, he knows I'm going to come back. But in the beginning, at this point, 6 months, you probably haven't had a lot of conflict. So it's harder. It's just, everything's new. right? Especially with
Yeah.
this. And so you have to get used to each other. But I think the more you know yourself and you could explain, like, this is how I operate and this is what I need in this moment where I'm feeling high emotions and I feel paralyzed. I feel I'm having that freeze reaction. It's like, it's better for me to just like take a step away and come back than it is to just sit and until I thaw. Like, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was like a big challenge. Not big challenge, just a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you're navigating different styles of conflict and different styles of conflict resolution, I think is even bigger there in what you're saying.
But luckily, the repairs have always been easy, and he understood right away the importance of repairing properly. Johnny isn't a relationship nerd like me. He read Attached after I mentioned how much that book meant to me, but he'll read relationship books if I'm like, hey, you should read this, but like he's not, but he understood repair. He understood like, this is what we're supposed to do after we have a conflict. We have to come together, remind each other that we love each other, and just have that moment so we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be difficult for anyone that we dated to be as much of a relationship nerds as we are. That would be a high bar. Yeah, that's true. I don't know that I would want somebody who talks about dating and relationships all the time like I do.
No. What about you?
Similarly, we've never fought like in the way that you said, like, which I don't know about you, but I have experienced that in past relationships.
I have a little bit, but mostly I'm pretty like, I'll snap, but I don't yell.
I will yell if yelled at. And I usually am not like, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to start a fight, but I'll finish one. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, just to be super, super clear, but like, I am not
like, this is us knowing ourselves. Like everyone's a work in progress. Like, I'm working on not snapping. I'm working on not shutting down as much.
I say this all the time about myself in the context of volleyball. I'm a hothead. I am. And like, I get in volleyball, it absolutely does. And I've been able to channel my hot-headedness into sports and competitiveness into like a field where it is valued. And
you're an Aries, right?
You get,
yeah.
Yes, I am. And I also have like, I'm not huge into astrology, but I have a lot of fire in my chart in general.
I'm like all air, like 100% air.
Yeah. What's Capricorn? Earth? Skyline's
sure.
Capricorn.
We're not experts in this. Sorry if we're wrong.
He's very grounded. So in any case, I know that I can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not typically the first one to do it, but I can. And so I have worked on that a lot individually, but that is something that I've appreciated about Skyline from the jump is that he is very grounded and he does have very calming energy. Like, I actually can't even picture him yelling.
Yeah.
I've never seen him yell before. He's seen me yell because he's watched me play volleyball, but I can't even picture. I truly can't even picture what it would look like for him to be mad.
Johnny is more of a eye roller sire, like, than a yell. He doesn't yell. He's never yelled. So yeah, he's more of an eye roll, like shrug, like, and which can be very like, you know, that definitely would get a reaction out of me. But it's like, again, working on like not reacting to that and allowing him to have that reaction kind of thing. But like, you learn, this is what you learn though at this point and 6 months in, like, you will start to see how they react. Maybe it's not even about you. Maybe they're reacting in a way to something in their life. And you're going to start to learn what's going on when things are not going their way.
Yeah. And there was one point, actually almost exactly around 6 months, where Skyline was angry at me for something that I did. And I was wrong. But
did you not show him your boobs when it was on the calendar, Allie?
Yeah, I totally skipped her. I just deleted that calendar invite right from the calendar. It was something that I could tell he was upset about, but he wasn't saying that he was upset. And I actually asked him, "Are you mad at me? It's okay if you're mad at me. Like, I get it." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm a little bit mad at you." I was like, "Okay, like, let's talk about that." And then we did. And I think in talking to him about it later, he wasn't sure how I was going to react to him being upset.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so he said this to me many times, that it's just really easy to talk things through with me in a way that he wasn't expecting.
Yeah, you don't know when you're getting to this point, you don't know how you're each going to be reacting to each other and what's going to happen. So it is scary. And I can empathize with Skyline for not saying anything initially, because he might not have known how you were going to react, and that's scary, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you still have to do it, and good for you for being attuned to see, like, okay, maybe there's something up here, and good for you for asking. And hopefully in the future you won't have to do that, right? That's the idea. But
it's the last time I had to do that, and great. It's honestly like the most upset he's ever been at me. Like, and it wasn't even that bad, but like since then, nothing really has happened like that. But there have been other conversations we've had where it's more like you said, where we're sitting next to each other. We're like calmly talking through something that's bothering one of us. Something was bothering me last week that I brought up to him. And it was just very calm. I was like, this is something that's bothering me. Can we do something about this?
One thing I've learned from getting from the 6 month point to now is like, however you deal with conflict at 6 months, that's not necessarily how it's going to be forever. You get to evolve your communication styles together and grow them. Hopefully you're with someone who's open to that and wants to have the ruptures not be so ruptury. Like, just, yeah, like you can move on quicker. You can get to the heart of it quicker. You don't have to go through all the like surface level stuff. You just get to the root. So just know that even though like at this point, Skyline, that was like you said, the most he's ever been mad at you or whatever, like that doesn't mean that was going to be how it's going to be moving forward. And
no,
I think it's easy at the 6 month mark to worry. It's like, oh my God, this happened. Oh no, next time it's going to be worse. Like maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe next time it'll be better because you've talked through it and you know each other better and it can be better every single time and you'll get better at repairing. That's something that I historically am not very good at, repairing.
Okay. I'm like, let's get to the repair as soon as possible.
I just like, I have learned about myself that I need to, if I'm mad about something, I need to be mad for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a bit might be an hour. Like a bit's not days, weeks, but like I need to like just before I can move on.
I get it. I mean, again, it's good that you know that about yourself and you understand why and you can communicate that to your partner. And that's, again, the whole point of this is just like, don't be afraid of conflict. Let it happen. Obviously, don't try to make it happen, but like if it's happening, allow it. And you can take each time you butt heads as a learning experience.
Absolutely.
So do you think it's a bad sign if you don't have any conflict at this point?
I don't think so. I think it's context dependent, but I think it's just like, if this is you, if you are in a relationship and you've had no conflict, which at 6 months, mine hadn't, because the thing that I mentioned hadn't happened yet. It was like a week after that. I think the important thing to do is to evaluate whether it's because you kind of are just aligning on things or if it's because you're avoiding stuff that's bothering you.
Yeah. And it can be tough if you're like looking at the other person being like, are they avoiding things? Are they not saying things? Like that was definitely me with, I'm like, he's not bringing anything up. Like, is there something like what's going on? But it's like, I've learned that he just is not the kind of person who cares about enough things to bring up.
Like, yeah, Skyline is similar. I care about way more stuff than he does.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. And it's like, if that imbalance is okay, it really is. As long as the other person is bringing stuff up when it matters. So other than conflict, what are some other things we would talk about at this point?
I think expectations of what you want your relationship to look like is really important. I know we already talked about holidays, but like, do each of you care about holidays? Do you care about how you celebrate it? Do you care about celebrating them together? What do you want that to look like? Your birthday. Do you care about that?
Guys, talk about your birthdays, please.
Please.
I can't tell you how many DMs I get. Be like, he didn't do anything for my birthday. It's like, did you talk about it? Is this your first go around? Because you need to tell him what you want.
Similarly, gifts.
Yeah.
What kinds of gifts do you like? Are you doing gifts for something? Like for our anniversary, for example, like Skyline and I went on vacation and we aligned beforehand that was our gift and we were going to get each other cards, but we weren't going to get each other gifts. Mind you, he got me one anyway. Stupid. But he wasn't resentful that I didn't because we had discussed it.
Right. Yeah.
So, sense. And I gladly accepted the earrings. But like, I think like, it's just really important to talk about expectations because like the lack of communication is going to lead to unmet expectations and resentment.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to just know these things. And also they're not a mind reader. They might not come to the relationship caring about it. Like I think of my parents, my mom is obsessed with her birthday. My stepdad does not want to even deal with the birthday. And they have had to figure that out. It's like, luckily it's just me texting my stepdad ideas for my mom. No, sometimes they didn't know that in the first few months. It comes up when you're by 6 months, maybe one of your birthdays is in that period of time. Like it might come up. Holidays probably at some point will come up in that. So definitely talk about it. Also, paying for stuff. I think at this point, I don't know. It depends on how traditional you are or what kind of vibe you want. You're probably going to be covering expenses together for your dates. What were you guys
I would
doing?
assume so by this point. I think we were splitting things pretty much from the jump, except for our surprise dates that we switch off on. But we will cover things back and forth and not really worry about it.
Yeah.
Like if we go out to a big meal, like an expensive meal, we'll split it. But if we're like, oh, we stopped by a coffee shop, I'll get this one. Or like we went to the beach the other day and like I bought lunch and then he bought drinks. Like we just don't really worry about it.
Yeah, we did that as well. We did a lot of just every other putting the card down or splitting a big meal kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever talk about it? Like
Yeah.
how you were going to approach it?
Yeah. I mean, I told him I fucking hate Venmoing each other and I will not be doing that. So I think I hate it so much. Unless it's like, okay, the one-off flight or the one-off, like something that's kind of harder to split, whatever. But, you know, we quickly got into a joint debit account for and had a joint debit card like shortly after the 6 month because I'm like, okay, we're talking about moving in together. I know that's super early for a lot of people, but I'm just like, I'm over it. You know,
I think that's fine. Well, especially because you had already been talking about moving in together, so it was like we're going to be doing this anyway.
It was definitely closer to a year, but it happened before 1 year for sure. Because I'm just like, I hate Venmo. Even with my friends, I'm like, let me just pay for it.
Yeah, it can get annoying if you're constantly like figuring that out back and forth.
Passing about the same $60. Just
it's very true.
Yeah, no. Let's get into this poll we have. What is the most important milestone to hit by 6 months?
This is the one that I got the most feedback on.
Yeah.
Of people being like, well, it depends. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the point. So 40% of my audience said I love you, like saying I love you.
Okay, same.
38% said meeting family. So basically the same as yours. Oh my God, they're all the same. 18% said spending a week together. And then 4% said discussing moving in and engagement.
Yeah, I pretty much had the same breakdown on mine, and a lot of comments about like none of these, like, or you know, these are all way too fast, or like this is way too early to be doing this. And again, it's just like that's okay if that's what if you're hearing these and it's like it's so much too early to discuss moving in engagement. Yeah, that makes sense. You're like with most people on that. We didn't talk about engagement at 6 months. We did talk about moving in.
We talked about the fact that.
Right.
If we did move in together, it would mean we were going to get engaged.
Yeah, I think he already knew my engagement timeline. So we didn't have to talk about it. It was like, you have 2 years. Like that was really just the boundary that I was like, it's 2 years. And if we don't know, I'm leaving. So that was what I said. I think there was a reason why it wasn't discussed at that point. It's just like he already knew.
He already knew, yeah. Didn't need to
And
be
I
discussed.
think that we had not discussed at that point, like if we wanted to get engaged before moving in together. But I think I kind of knew that he wanted to live together first.
How did you know?
I think we had probably like through using our own tips that we just shared, like through talking about what I was hearing about on Instagram and like on podcasts and like other people in our lives taking these steps and just those kinds of conversations.
I like specifically called it out to Skyline because it was like so important to me.
To live together first.
To live together first, yeah. But I specifically said that to him and he was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, girl, I just got divorced. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to get engaged right away.
Yeah, Johnny had never lived with anyone before. So I think that was a big thing for him.
Oh.
And I was flexible. Like, even though I had lived with someone for 3 years with no ring or no real marriage discussion, I was like, okay, this can work. I'm happy to do this because I'm fortunate to be in a place where I can move in with someone and move out and it not affect my life too much. And that's not everyone is in that position. Like, I work for myself and I have the financial setup to be able to do that. And I'm very lucky. So I understand like not everyone has that flexibility, but I knew I had it. So I was like, okay, like that's fine. And we'll talk about it more in the next episode.
Yeah. The next episode we'll really dive into that.
Yeah. Also, one comment I wanted to mention, people were saying that these milestones in 6 months look very different when you have kids. And one could include introducing your kids to each other or talking about it. And people always ask me like, when do we do this? How do we do this? And it's like, if the answer is literally talk about it with them because they might have very set ideas on, I won't do this until I'm engaged or I won't do this until I'm a year in with someone, like whatever. Or
they might have a literal co-parenting agreement,
right?
That says that dictates how they have to handle it. Also, those are really common.
Do you think these milestones also apply to people who are dating in their late 40s, 50s, 60s?
I think so.
I think so for the most part too. I mean, you tell us, listeners,
Yeah, I'm
who are
curious.
dating in your 50s, 60s, and beyond.
I think they apply less maybe when you're younger.
Oh yeah, like in your 20s.
In your
Yeah.
20s, like especially early 20s, mid 20s, like things just happen slower because you're younger.
Yeah. 100%. And I think it's okay to talk about, again, talking about it. It's okay to talk about it really at this early. It is. But you're
You're going to
not
be okay.
doing it. Yeah. The most common one was, what was it? Saying, I love you. So people ask me, you know, oh, 6 months in, he hasn't said, I love you. We haven't said it, or I'm scared to say it. Is that normal? And I want to say, yes, it's okay
Yes.
if you haven't said it, or if one of you's holding back. In my former relationship, it took him 8 months to say it. And that's okay. Like it was fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the questions that I get about that, about people saying, well, we haven't said it yet, but I feel it. I'm like, well, why don't you say it?
My rule on this is say it. You know you're ready to say it when it's okay if you don't hear it back. Like when you're so excited to say it that you need to say it for you because you're just bursting out of you and you don't care if you hear it back. That's when I said it to Johnny first. So yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have only have made it a couple more weeks, if that, with
Yeah.
Skyline if he hadn't said
Exactly.
it to me.
It's like when you feel it, you're so excited to say it.
Lean into that feeling. Like that is the best feeling.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I love that feeling so much.
And I think if you're feeling resistance, you can be like, hey, you can have a conversation like about the resistance. If you're feeling it, be like, hey, like, how do you feel about saying I love you? When do you usually say it? And it's an awkward conversation, but I think it's worth having. And I think one thing we haven't really said, I want to just make sure you guys know, it's like, if you see a long-term relationship with this person, you have to be able to have all these conversations. There's no avoiding them.
No. And I think, like we said earlier, if you are feeling resistance, either from them or within yourself, to having these conversations, that is something to look at.
Yeah.
Because you want to be able to have hard conversations, deeper conversations with your long-term partner. Like that is a prerequisite.
Yes. Okay, one more thing we wanted to touch on is when do you give access to your living space to someone?
I got very different responses to this too. Like people like DMing being like never, etc. In general though, again, our audience is aligned. So a small number of people, 15% said when you're official or like 3 months. Most people, 37% said around 6 months. 32% said around a year, and then 15% said not before living together.
Yeah, very similar. And yeah, I gave Johnny a key to my place around, I think just after 6 months because I had like one of those old fashioned, it was a very janky old apartment. I just had keys I could easily copy and it was just like, here you go. And it was also kind of nice. Like if I was gone, he could like water my plants and stuff. That was really nice. He had like a fancy fob that couldn't be duplicated. So I didn't get a key to his place, but he would have definitely given me one if he could.
Skyline got one like immediately. Well, I don't actually have keys. I have codes.
Right. That's different. I've also got a code in my last relationship very early on because it's like it's just easy to get in. You don't want to be waiting outside on the street necessarily. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I have a code for the front door and then I have like a smart lock on my door. Every single person can have their own individual code and I actually get a push notification when something besides my code is used. So like it didn't feel risky to me for him to have that early on. And he wasn't living in the city yet. He was staying with a friend outside of the city when we first met. So he was staying with me a lot and like needing to come and go when I was in the office and things like that.
Yeah, I think this is, again, it's super up to you, but I thought it was interesting. I don't hear this talked about a lot. Like, when do you actually give them access? And I understand some people really don't want that. And you might be slower to trust someone with that. Totally get it. But something worth talking about, again, like everything else we've shared today.
Yeah. Also, a few people called out that it is different if you have roommates. And yes, if it is not, obviously, you should not give access to somebody else's living space without talking to them about it first.
Very true.
So, wow, we've gotten into so much today. There is just so much to talk about. And I'm so excited for part 3 to talk about the year mark. But I think big themes that we've talked about today for the 6-month mark, we've got that future alignment that's more about you and the person settling into a more of a routine or like couplehood and the shifts that happen there. And then all of those big firsts that we talked about and those milestones and really making sure that you're talking about things that are coming up.
And look, you should still also be having fun. All this stuff I know sounds kind of serious, but like, again, main headline is have fun together, keep building trust, keep having experiences, and don't shy away from these conversations because they're going to reveal a lot. And the sooner you know certain things, the better.
Yeah. And like you said, you're validating. It's like 6 months doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. It doesn't mean that you have to be absolutely sure about everything. But I think it is good to continue to check in with yourself and make sure that you're getting to know the things that you personally need to get to know in order to make those future decisions.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for our next episode. We have our 3-month one linked below. We just wrapped up 6 months. 1 year is coming next. Allie, where can we find you?
I am at Finding Mr. Height. Mr. is MR on Instagram and TikTok.
I am on Instagram at dating.intentionally. You're welcome to slide into my DMs anytime.
I can't wait for part 3.
Me too. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.